I'm not retired yet, and that is exactly why I am making this video. Because the closer I get to retirement, the more I realize avoiding mistakes may be just as important as making more money. Over the past few years, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what retirement looks like, um, what it might cost, what could potentially derail my plans. And today I want to share the biggest retirement mistakes I am personally trying to avoid. Welcome back. My name is Jen. If you're new here, I'm glad you're here. Let's dive right into it. Mistake number one is waiting too long to think about retirement. Not saving, not planning, not having a conversation with your spouse, not understanding future expenses. You don't have to know everything today, but future you will appreciate you starting now. Mistake number two is not having a vision for what retirement's going to look like. I discussed this in my first retirement video, what retirement actually looks like. And a lot of people focus on just the numbers. You're going to need this much and that much, but where will you live? What will you do? What kind of a lifestyle are you going to lead? What does your spouse want for retirement? Those are extremely important questions to be asking yourself before you get into retirement. If you don't know what retirement looks like, it's impossible to know what you're planning for. Mistake number three is carrying debt into retirement. Now, this can look like mortgage, car payment, credit card debt. Every payment that you eliminate is going to be less of a burden for future you. Mistake number four is assuming that expenses will disappear. When you think about you're not going to be commuting to work, you're going to have no expenses or less expenses, that's not necessarily true. While you might not have that commute from your home to work and expenses that come along with that, you're still going to have expenses, and some of them might even be more. You may have, less auto insurance expense, but you might have more health insurance expense. If you are hanging around in your house all day, you might have more heating, cooling, and electricity costs in your house than you would have if you weren't home during the day. That's another thing that you want to be sure to think about. This brings me into mistake number five, which is ignoring inflation. And, you know, everybody knows that there's rising costs. I'm sure you've all been hit at the grocery store with rising cost after cost after cost. And those expenses are never going to go down. I don't care what they say about, well, we're as soon as this war is over, as soon as this, as soon as that, it's just not going to come. Your grocery bill is going to continue to rise over time. And it's not just your grocery bill, your property taxes, your insurance cost. All of those things are going to continue to go up over time. And the retirement you imagine today is going to cost more, 10, however many years, 10, 20 years from now when you plan to retire. You've got to make sure that you plan for inflation. Mistake number six is comparing your retirement to other people. And this is quite important because, if you hear someone, one of your coworkers saying, well, I need to have 2 million to retire. And, another one says, well, I need 3 million to retire. And you look at you look at that and you say, well, what do I need? Maybe you need that, maybe you don't need that. It all depends on your lifestyle, which of course, goes back to my first video. What is your lifestyle in retirement going to look like? That's one of the biggest mistakes, is thinking that their retirement is going to look like some financial planner or somebody else that they know about. The last retirement mistake is that believing that retirement means doing nothing. So a lot of people will volunteer, do part-time work, create things. I plan to continue to create content into retirement. Gardening is an example. They could be teaching other people how to do things, starting a business. Retirement can look like a lot of different things. It's not just sitting at home, eating eating bonbons. That's what I would, I used to think that retirement would be just like sitting at home and hanging out, but that's not necessarily the case. Retirement isn't necessarily the end of productivity. It could be the beginning of something intentional, something that means a lot to you. As I work through these retirement mistakes and questions myself, it brings me to one thing that keeps becoming more and more clear is that simplicity makes retirement easier. And in my next retirement video, I'm going to talk about how simplifying your life today can make retirement so much easier. I thank you for hanging out with me today. If you are interested in more content like this, please subscribe. I will see you in the next one.